What's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome all to the Secret Place podcast. This is the place where vulnerable is safe. I'm Skylar Mitchum. And if you're just now seeing this and you're like, is Homeboy wearing a bathrobe right now? The answer is yes, I am. And it's very comfortable and it's very warm. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm wearing a hat because y'all, it's cold outside right now, which means there are certain parts of my house that are cold also. And I'm not going to freeze just to look professional. No, this is not that place. I am going to be comfortable. So if you don't like it, I'm so sorry. I still love you. I promise. Okay. So again, welcome to the Secret Place podcast. And I just want you guys to, um, hopefully you're excited. Hopefully you're here to, hopefully receive some sort of knowledge or insight or wisdom, understanding, something like that. I really, my hope with this podcast that I'm doing, excuse me, is bringing some type of relief to people, is helping people to see the need for vulnerability, to see the need for um just being open, honest, and transparent, right? Um, and actually, it's a little bit there's a acronym that I heard someone say once, and it's called having hot conversations: honest, open, and transparent. And so we want to have these conversations because there are so many people that are afraid to have these conversations because it could be the person that's talking about their life or what they're going through, and it can be very painful at times, or it could be the person that's hearing it. It's things that you don't normally talk about on a day-to-day basis, and therefore it could be very uncomfortable. But the thing of it is, see, um, the enemy, who we know as Satan, what he likes to do is he likes to keep people isolated. He likes to keep people from talking to each other and having relationship with each other, so that way he can bring them into darker areas and not receive wisdom. Right? We're supposed to come together. We're supposed to reason together. We're supposed to confess our faults one to another, so that we can pray for each other and we can see healing. That's scripture, right? That's the whole point. And so this conversation that we're going to have is literally just us coming together, reasoning together, talking about things that are going on in our life. And this is not just for one person that's going to be on and being vulnerable. Like I've already told you guys that I promise that I'm going to be vulnerable as well. Like anything that bubbles up in me, like I'm going to talk about it, because anything that doesn't come up and out of your body in words is going to manifest out of your body in action. So we need to make sure that we are talking about things. Up to the level of our comfortability, so that we can experience healing. So, without any further ado, my next guest is a very awesome person. I am so thrilled and excited that I got to meet this person. I won't say where, just for the integrity and indignity and whatever else. I don't really know how to say it, but just to make sure other parties are not involved. I just want to say that I am very thrilled that I've got to meet this person. We've already had really awesome conversations, and I'm really excited about the conversation that we're going to have tonight. So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen of the Secret Place podcast, please help me in welcoming my very special guest, Mitchell. Mitchell, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I know that your time is precious, and with family and everything else, whatever you have going on personally, I just want to thank you for carving out a little bit of time
Well, thank you for
to
having
speak
me
with me.
on.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. So, um, as I have said before, this podcast is based off of a scripture. It's Psalm 91 and 1, and it says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall remain secure and at rest under the shadow of the Almighty, whose power no enemy can withstand." And so, basically, what that means to me, the secret place, basically, what that means, it is the presence of God, right? It's getting into the presence of God. And that place is supposed to be a place of supreme vulnerability, right? I mean, to where everything is open, everything is honest, everything's out there. And the reason being is because one, he sees everything, he knows everything. So I mean, there's really nothing that you can hide. If we're talking about supreme being, super power, whatever, that everyone would be, or at least be open to receive the fact, okay, they're obviously higher than us. They've got to know more than us. There's got to be this higher dimension of thinking and knowing or whatever. So if that is the case, then this open, or excuse me, this place, it means you can't hide anyway, right? I mean, you could try to hide it, you could try to not talk about it or not reveal it, but yet it is seen and it is known. And so, but this is a place that we are invited into, to where we can be fully open with our feelings, with our thoughts, any actions that we have done in our life, or anything we may be doing now, or things we may be thinking about doing, and we can be open with these things, and realize that God the Father is not going to condemn us, for any of this stuff. He's not going to judge us. He's not going to be mean, or end up being angry or hate us or whatever. Like, that's just not his character at all. Like, he is love. He is the epitome of love. And so therefore this place, what I feel like the Lord has led me in, is to open up a space to where people can come and they can just let it go. Anything that they may be holding on to that they haven't felt comfortable talking about. Maybe they tried in a season and there was extreme guilt tripping, or there was shame, or there was condemnation, I mean, or just hate, or belligerent, you know, hateful speech, that this is stuff that's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of people that are not able to really fully talk about their life because they're afraid of the rejection. They're afraid of how people are going to treat them, or alienate them, or whatever it may be. And so I want this space to be a place where people can come and feel safe and talk, and know that that doesn't matter your belief. It doesn't matter uh, your identity, or how you identify yourself, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Just come as you are, right? I mean, that's what the Bible says. That's what Jesus said. Come as you are, right? All you who are weary and burdened down by life, come to me, and I will give you rest. So, and that's what I want this place to be, is a place where you can find rest, for the heaviness that has been in the world, that people have experienced thus far. So, please, Mitchell, to the point that you are comfortable with, I would like for you to just kind of start from your origin, start from your birth. Where were you born? If you want to talk about your family, your parents, or if you have siblings, whatever, and then just kind of, key moments that have gotten you from that origin, to where you are now. And then basically what I like to do is I like to extrapolate from what you say, um, and just, whatever things kind of like stick with me, that I just want to say, man, this is really interesting. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. That's kind of what I want to do. So please, Mitchell, from the beginning, where you have the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I don't share your religious views, but I do appreciate like the point of the podcast, from like a psychological or like a reaching out community point of view and stuff like that. I think it's pretty cool in general. Um, but just for the sake of the viewers, I I uh, I don't follow in Mitchum's, religion. We do see differently on stuff like that, but we have gotten along and have had some pretty cool conversations just in the circumstances that we've met our each other in and stuff like that. Um, as far as my story goes, I've lived in Aiken, South Carolina for pretty much my entire life. There was a short period of time where we lived in Savannah, Georgia ish. My mother got remarried. Um, he joined the military. We moved to Fort Stewart for quite a while, that around my elementary school years. I'm currently 29. Um, my story, my very long story, made incredibly very short, is a lot of uh, child abuse and negligence, in the emotional, physical, and sexual spectrum. Um, and a lot of like drug abuse in the environment around me. Um, just a lot of unhealthy adult figures in my life, mostly of the masculine variety. And um, after making it through a very like tough journey, dealing with a lot of mental health problems, including like depression, OCD, PTSD, um, getting on medication has really helped me push forward and do some positive things, starting to get my life back on track and stuff like that. Um, if you want some more details on like how my life kind of started in general, my grandfather on my father's side of the family, I wasn't particularly close with my father's side of the family. He kind of dipped out pretty quick, but I was pretty close with my grandmother and my grandfather on that side. But my grandfather was had a coworker, and you can actually Google this name if you like. Um, David Lee Sheffield is a was a prolific um, child pornography trafficker, and I was a victim of his issues. And around the age of when I was about 16, he went off and he shot himself somewhere down in Georgia, I think. But there was a whole FBI case and all that kind of stuff. Um, my mother, she liked she dated a lot, and her thing is that she likes guys that she can try to fix up. Um, and they always ended up being very abusive in general. Um, Luckily, she's past that phase and she's doing a lot better with herself now too. Now that she's properly medicated and stuff like that. Uh, but the moral of the story is that like I've lived a very I wouldn't say. I mean, I have like I live my own privileged lifestyle as it is, but I've dealt with like a lot of stuff. There's a lot of sources of trauma in my life and stuff like that. But I'm very in connection, connected with like the mental health sphere. I like to think emotionally intelligent, um, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. Just being aware of not only myself emotionally, but helping others become aware of themselves and their issues emotionally as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Um, First, let me say, um, you know, you can elaborate more if you wish. Like there is no time limit. Like the
Yeah,
only time limit is like if you have to go. You know what I'm saying? Like
for sure.
so. But let me first say, I'm sorry that that and whatever else that has happened. I'm sorry that those things have happened to you, and I know that doesn't even come close. To making up for the things that have happened, the trauma that I'm sure was birthed because of it.
Well, I
Um,
mean, at the end of the day, it's like it comes down to like life kind of sucks. But further than that, it's um, I don't really mind talking about it. I've been in therapy for a very long time. I appreciate, your condolences or whatever. I'm iffy about talking about it because it weirds other people out. But like I said, I've told my story in therapy enough times that if you have any questions or uh, want to talk about whatever, I'm comfortable with any of it. So
yeah. Okay. Well, and the other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank you. For giving. I mean, really, just giving us any shroud of information. And on you. And what you've been through and how you've gotten to where you are. Um, you know. So I guess really what I would like to know. Um, I know you said that you lived in Savannah for a while, Savannah, Georgia, which actually is only about an hour away from where I went to high school. I went to high school in Statesboro, Georgia, and I know Savannah. Okay, I mean, not as much as I used to. I used to go there all the time, but
I
you
didn't
know, I,
live directly in Savannah. I lived in Fort Stewart at the
oh,
time.
Okay.
because my mother was married to the father of my sister, whom I'm very close with. But he joined the military to help support us, and we moved to Fort Stewart.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. So you said your father left at a young age.
Yeah, my biological father, I didn't have too much to do with him growing up. Um, at the age of 2, he more or less like gave up on like the family thing and went to go do his own thing, which I don't know like how much of it was like can be blamed at his feet or anything. I won't go like too into details, but my mother was not the most faithful of people either, and there was definitely a lot of fault on both sides. But the end result was that um, my biological father wasn't really there for me as a child, and my adoptive father, after my mother got remarried, um, and had another child, and stuff like that, and he officially adopted me as his child. Um, he kind of went insane, and like that, that's not really the best word to use it, but he got very, very wrecked in the Desert Storm missions, basically. Um, that's when he joined the military. He was deployed in Desert Storm. I don't know too many details, but I think that he, under orders, murdered some kids or something like that. Um, it's a very sad story, but unfortunately, when he came back, he dealt with a lot of that stuff not very well, and he became very abusive in the household.
Yeah. So it seems like now. Okay. So let me let if you don't mind, let's just keep going in some other areas because I'm kind of piecing some things together right
Oh, for
now
sure.
in my mind. Um, so
I'm good to go till about 10, by the way. So,
okay, all right, awesome. Thank you for telling me that.
hmm
Um, so okay, the event that is in my mind, like I said, I'm very cautious to go about it. I know you said that you're cool to talk about, just about anything. But I hate to use the word curious because that's just a weird word. But you know, I'd like to hear whatever you'd like to share about um, this person that you said, Sheffield, I think was the last name.
David Lee Sheffield. Yep.
David Lee Sheffield. I don't know why that name sounds so familiar. Um,
He repaired televisions and vacuum cleaners here in Aiken for quite a while. You may have came across him like many years ago. He killed himself probably about 13 years ago. So anytime before that, he was around. If you've been to Dunnigan's, is a vacuum repair shop on the south side. That's where my grandfather used to work, and David worked with him on occasions. There's also a TV repair shop that used to be over there. It's not there anymore. It was called Alvano's.
mm, no, I've driven by Dunnigan's,
Yeah,
many times. Okay. So as far as that goes, now as far as in the timeline, this person, and you said I know you said that you were a victim to stuff that he was doing. Was
Mhm.
this before the guy that your mom got with that was in the army or afterwards?
It was David was probably the main, and as crappy as this sounds, the most positive male role model in my life from the time that I was about 2 years old to the time I was about 14 years old.
So that's how long this person was in your life was
Yes.
about 12 years. Wow. Okay. All right. So you had okay. So this person was in the picture simultaneously with the guy that was in the military
Yes.
at a certain point.
During the years that we, moved to and lived in Fort Stewart, um, we obviously grew apart, but the rest of the time period, whenever I was a kid, from about the ages of 2 to around 7 to 8 years old, I spent probably like more than half of my weekends at his house.
Okay. Now was your mom like privy to any of this that was going on?
No, she was not. She was very busy. Um, I won't give her too much leeway. I mean, there was obviously like I don't want to talk too much smack about her just because like I said, I have a very good relationship with her now. She's my best friend, my number one role model. At the time, she was not the best parent. She was very negligent. And at the time, she was too busy working 60 hours a week to try to pay bills, to even worry about or think to be concerned about stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, so was he kind of like just helping like to watch you so that way she could work? Was that kind of the
At the beginning, yeah, for
okay.
sure. The rest of the time, I was very attached. He was basically the person I went. He was my best friend. We played games together. We built Legos together, that sort of thing. He was just my best friend that I didn't understand all the things that were necessarily happening at the time.
Wow. Wow. And obviously, don't want to go into the specifics, that I think needs to be um that needs to be protected, I think. And if you get what I'm saying, like it's probably not the best word, but like I want to make sure that, I think everybody can kind of fill in the blank to a certain degree of,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, things that were going on, So, but I'm thinking about this in my mind, and you have, wow, it's like the true, authentic, pure male role model, if I may say this, and you can
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm listening to your story, and it's just like the pure, true male role model was just not there.
No. At the end of the day, the only male role model that wasn't physically or emotionally abusive was the one that was very sexually abusive, if that makes sense. And that was the one that I clung to the most.
Wow. Um, and it was almost like, and this is just what I'm hearing, and like I said, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost as like, because that's where, this is what I'm thinking now, that's where you were getting intimacy from.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, and which really all of us inwardly crave intimacy.
We
Like,
are social creatures.
yes, yes, and we need intimacy desperately, and
Hmm.
intimacy in its purest form is not a bad thing. I mean, and from my and just to go from a theological perspective, I believe that God created intimacy. You know what I mean? Like that, like
Hmm.
intimacy, whether it's sexual, whether it's emotional, whatever. That was created by him. That's my belief. And so, but just as a back to a base ground level, um, intimacy is something that all of us as humans we crave and we need, right? It's something that we need in order to, excuse me, it's something that we need that really, it builds us up, right? Intimacy builds us up. It builds up our self esteem. It builds up our way of thinking about life, our perception, the way that we see things, the way that we think about things, whether we think about ourselves or think about others. Intimacy helps build those things, right? It is a part of the building blocks of life. But when that intimacy is let me say, twisted, right? I could use the word maybe even perverted, like
Mhm.
perverted, twisted, whatever. When that intimacy is perverted or twisted, it begins to pervert and twist a lot of different things in our life, and maybe, like I said, and I'm not assuming anything about your story. I'm just using this as an example for people to kind of have a visual, a very vague visual. you know, you may get touched in one area intimately, but that doesn't mean that that's the only place that's going to be affected by the false intimacy or the perverted or twisted intimacy. There's going
Right.
to be other areas in your life that are going to be touched, other areas that are going to be affected because of that, right? Because of that perverted intimacy, because all that stuff. So let me ask this question, because I definitely don't want to talk the whole time, because I love to talk. uh, but one question I'd like to ask is, when, because you mentioned at the time that things were happening, because of your age, because of the level of maturity at that time,
Mhm.
you didn't really understand what was really happening, what was
Right.
happening to you and around you and all that other stuff. When when did you realize
Mhm.
what actually happened or was happening, whatever, and how did that affect you initially?
Um, it didn't really even hit me until the FBI contacted me. And they contacted me and they had a bunch of files off of his hard drive, and it was a very traumatic thing. Um, the FBI were obligated to show me, and also because I was underage at the time, my mother, the images that were of me on his hard drive. And it was at that point that like it kind of clicked in me. I was probably about 15 or 16 at the time that this like officially happened, and I sat down for this, and it really just it kind of blew me away and kind of like just tore me down, you know,
Yeah.
because not only was I like coming to terms with all of this, but also even at that time and even still now, the human brain is really wacky, but it's like the the guy is still like the most positive male role model in my life, and I still miss him, and it's he killed himself, and sometimes that messes me up worse than remembering the things that like he did, you know,
Wow. Yeah.
which makes me feel guilty. Uh, but that's just things that I have to work past.
Wow. Wh- that's so, God, the word choice that that I'm trying to figure out as I'm, like, trying to maneuver through this. It is really, like, it's crazy. The uh the th- the thing that I'm kind of pondering right now still is the fact that, again, because of the age, because of the maturity level, there was no knowledge of
Hmm.
what was really happening, um, and really no awareness of how this was affecting you, even though it was. People think, a lot of times people think that something doesn't affect them because they're not aware of the effect, you know. But just because you're not aware of what's happening and how it's affecting you doesn't mean you're not being affected by it.
Right.
And because a lot of times, like you said, in your case, that it was a positive experience. And I think it was, in my understanding of what you're saying, it was because of the fact that there was a lack of the pure, the
Absolutely.
pure relationship. And so when something because your backdrop was, what I'm understanding, is the abusive man in your mom's life
Mhm.
that is a military, uh, official or however you say it, because I'm guessing he was still in the military or whatever, so I don't think I can necessarily call
He's
him
not
abusive.
at the he's not currently, no.
Okay. Well, what I mean is like during this time, you said he came back from Desert Storm and he was very abusive. So
Right.
now was he still active military or did he,
Yes,
retire?
he was deployed like a total of 3 or 4 times.
Okay, okay. Um, wow. So, your backdrop of male role model, in comparison to what was going on with this Sheffield guy
Mhm.
was abuse and anger and, whatever else because of what this guy unfortunately went through, I
Right.
mean, I I could never say what I would never do, what I would do or what I wouldn't do. Like if I were put in a situation like that, and I if that had, like you said, you from your understanding, you think that he was given orders to, to kill children, and man,
Yeah.
that nobody is gonna come out of that unaffected.
Absolutely
Like
not.
nobody. Like I don't
Yeah,
care who
I
you
mean,
are. Like
some blame
that.
has to be laid at his feet, but, like, he was a victim too, you know? I mean, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but, like, how much of his behavior was to blame on, like, these circumstances? And it's hard to parse out, you know? I choose to just forgive and forget as far as it comes to him, you know? Like, I had a miserable time, he had a miserable time, we're not close, and I don't ever plan on being close with him in the future. He's out doing whatever he wants to now. I just don't care, you know, and I'm not interested in ever learning to care about it.
Yeah. And let me say something on that real quick, and then because I'd like to keep going.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
unless the conversation, goes in a different direction, then I'm
Mhm.
fine with that too. I'm fine with going wherever. But one thing that I want to mention real quick, you said, I want to forgive and forget, or that's, you're doing that, forgiving, forgetting,
Right.
but you also don't have the desire to have any further contact or
Right.
relationship or whatever. And there is a misconception, uh, among people now that if you truly forgive and forget, then you should, as a sign or a manifestation of true forgiveness, that you should seek to have a relationship with that person. And I would like to say that I disagree with that, and I
Mhm.
don't think that that's true. I think that you can truly forgive, and now as far as like forgetting, and I will say this respectfully, I don't really fully agree, with the term like forgive and forget because I just I you some of the stuff that you went through, you're not gonna forget it. You know what I mean?
Well,
You're gonna
right.
remember that. Now, but what I will say forget is that you will choose not to bring it back up.
Yes.
Like, that would be, and I'm not saying that disagree with you. I'm just saying that to for those that are watching to kind of get a little bit more of a context to what we're saying here about forgiving and forgetting. It's not that you just forget what happened because you're not going to forget what happened. You're going to remember it, and in a sense, you kind of need to remember because it helps to be this basis of we need to know where we came from and what we've been through
Mhm.
because it provides such a more of a solid base to who we are now and how far we've come. We need to remember those things, but we
We're a
also
product of our environment, you know? The
yeah
lessons learned is what makes us who we are today.
yeah yeah 100%. But I also don't think, like I was saying before, you can forgive and you can choose to forget,
Mhm.
meaning not to bring that back up, not to rehash it in your mind, not to go over and over again and try to think of ways you could have done this differently or how this could have changed or that, all that stuff really, since it's something that's in the past, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to help you now, but you you can forgive and forget, but you don't have to show forgiveness by continuing to have a relationship with someone. Someone hurt you or someone did this or did that. Listen, that person does not have to be in your life anymore in order for you to manifest forgiveness through your life and choosing not to rehash it and bring it back up. True forgiveness is something that's in you, something that's in your heart, an inward peace. And from that, you can healthily make a decision to not be around someone. It's not because I have animosity towards you. It's not because I want to hold it against you. Because that's just that's going to do damage inwardly, right? If you hold that grudge, if you hold that against someone, you're not doing any damage to that person that you're holding a grudge against. You are poisoning yourself on the inside, right? It's like I'm sure you've probably heard the statement. Holding a grudge against someone is like drinking poison and hope the other person dies.
Yeah,
Y-
absolutely.
y-
You can't let
you
that
know?
negativity just stay inside you. You have to um, either overcome it or just let it go. Something like that. It's not doing any use by just holding on to that negativity.
Yeah, yeah. I forgive you, and we also don't have to be friends.
Right.
I
Exactly.
forgive you, but I don't have to see you every day, right?
Hmm.
Like, if we were to happen to run into each other, fine, but, don't call me and ask me to go hang out next week because it's gonna be a no, but
Right.
I forgive you,
Absolutely.
and I hope the rest of your life is great, and I hope you find happiness and peace and
Hmm.
whatever else that you're looking for, great, awesome for you, but, it's not gonna you can have a great life, but I'm not gonna be in it, so,
I
uh,
wish them the best.
yeah. So, I wanted to throw that in there, um, for that, but, it's just it's so okay. I also heard you say that this guy that, obviously did, things to you that were not good, not right, and then later, ends his own life, and then I hear you say, "But I miss him,"
Hmm.
you know, and you'll hear people say, "How in the world?" You know,
Right.
that someone who did this or someone who did that, blah, 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 blah. How in the world could you miss somebody like that? It's the same thing.
Hmm.
It's the same concept of someone being in an abusive relationship and they leave and they leave 6, 7 times and they go back every time. It's like, how
Right.
in the world could you go back? How in the world could you miss that person? It's like, listen, just because there's negativity, just because there is uh, heinous things that are happening in between people, it doesn't mean that there is no value there at all.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of people they focus on the bad and they totally erase the reasoning or what initially precipitated all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me say it like this, because just to help people, because I don't want to confuse anybody. I, I would I'm gonna make an assumption, okay? And I would like for you to speak to this and let me know if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would I would like to make the assumption that the relationship with you and Mr. Sheffield did not start the way that it ended,
Oh,
or
of
even
course not.
please, if you wouldn't mind.
Um, I went to his house as often as I could to play with Legos and on the Nintendo. That was my 4 to 5 year old motivations. I wanted to play the word games on the computer. I wanted to build Bionicles and collect Pokemon cards, and he was all about helping me hang out and build Legos. He was like the positive father figure that I needed in my life at the time.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind me asking, do you know when uh when the illegal activity begin to take place, like, from when you first met him and started or, when you first started going over there to when like, do you know how long it was before that really started?
Um, I don't, just because like the timeline is so like scrambled over the years.
Yeah,
Um, it's just all so like tightly packed from whenever I was a kid. Time just, I mean, I was always bad with timelines to begin with, but I remember just like at one point he got this digital camera, and I always was like, I remember being annoyed with it, but like that was it, you know. Uh, as far as like I didn't understand or comprehend or was even at all bothered by what I came to understand as the sexual content of these encounters. I was more concerned with playing with Legos.
yeah. Well, I mean, you said your age. I mean, you were very young. I mean, really
Right.
young, you know. Man, and I'm just and I know that when you're speaking about this, I know you're speaking about it from the understanding, that you had at that time.
Hmm.
Uh, and so, you know, golly, this is this is just to me. I'm gonna try not to get emotional because, well, I've got young kids,
Yeah, it's
and
tragic. It's a tragic story, and like at the end of the day, I don't want to give like David any credit. Obviously, he's a terrible person. He did a lot of things that he's a monster. He was also a victim, unfortunately, just like the rest of us are. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole psychological, we live in a society, et cetera. But, like in retrospect, I saw his own struggles and his own descent into madness, as it were. Um, I know, like, from here and now, I can look back and I can be like, he was struggling so much with his own loneliness and depression and health issues, and he wasn't getting help from anyone or anywhere else at all, you know and that doesn't excuse him or his behavior,
right,
but it can give like some additional context of like even connecting further what we were talking about before. We are social creatures, and he was lacking that intimacy, and that just got twisted in a very wrong direction.
yeah, it. I just one. This is why having a pure father figure in the home is so important. I
Mm,
mean, it is so very important, right? You need that because when you don't, and it's not to say that, excuse me, it's not to say that if the father figure is not present, that all of a sudden, like, you're going to meet this person's going to start sexually abusing you, and
mhm,
this might happen, that might happen. It's not saying that, because I mean, there are plenty of people, myself included, like, who did not have a pure father figure in the home. Um, Really ever. Like, I just, and that's not when I say pure, I'm not saying perfect,
mhm,
but I just I never really had that either. Now, did my childhood did not go in the same direction, you know. So it's not to say that having a pure father figure in the home that there would never be any issues because that's not the case either, because nobody on the planet is perfect and no one is ever going to be perfect. We all have our little idiosyncrasies and different things that we deal with, and insecurities, and we all deal with that stuff, and emotions, anger, bitterness, rage, all that sadness, depression, anxiety, like, we all feel these things. We all go through these things, And as you were saying before, it's it's so crazy to have such a candid and civil conversation about something that is so tragic, you know? And
Mhm.
but sit here and just have a conversation about it like just like nothing happened, but it's sometimes that type of conversation can kind of bring into the mix of like there's some type of justification in our hearts that we're trying to attain for these people that did heinous things, and it's like, no, like, there is no justification,
Of course
for
not.
any of this stuff. Like, it doesn't matter what you've been through or what you've gone through, or what's happened
Mhm.
to you. There's no justification for committing heinous crimes or committing crime in general,
Right.
or what Christians call sin, right? You
Mhm.
know, there is no justification for sin whatsoever. It doesn't matter what's happened to you. Now, on the flip side, what you're talking about is when you look in hindsight, because you're hardly ever going to see it while you're in it, right? That's just not, it just usually doesn't happen. But in hindsight, you can look back if you're healthy, and what I mean by that is like, and you said you've been in therapy for a long time, which one thing I will applaud you for that, because therapy is extremely hard work.
Yeah.
It is really hard work. I mean, the work that you have to do to be healed inwardly of especially of stuff like that. That is not an overnight thing. You said you've been in it for a long time. It takes years, and really, to be honest with you, I mean, in certain instances, it really takes your whole life, to continuously
Mhm.
process these things, because there may be certain areas where there's healing that comes in, but then there's other things that will kind of pop up that you didn't think about before, that you weren't aware of before, that that your mind suppressed in order to protect you, right? In
Mhm.
order to protect your mental stability, and that's what the brain does. The brain is designed to protect your body, right? I mean, 100%. So the brain will take certain information that it will see or classify as extremely harmful, and it will suppress it. It will push it down. It will hide it. It will cover it. So that way you're not aware of it. So that way it protects you from things like um, harming yourself, trying to take your own life. And I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not, 'cause obviously there are people that do end up taking their own life or harming themselves or whatever, and not saying there's anything wrong with their brain, but at the same time, it could be a mental disorder. It could be all kind of stuff,
Mhm.
who knows? But, the point of what I'm saying, and then I'll turn it back over to you, is when you get this healing, which I encourage all people, if you have not, I don't care who you are, go to therapy. Like, get some
Yes.
therapy. Like, honestly, like, I am ready for the point to where I can afford it. I wanna go through therapy, right? Like,
Mhm.
now, you know, which for me, there's 2 aspects of it, okay? Um, there's therapy, right, which is uh from my belief, therapy is for the natural side of things, right? It's for the natural mind. It's for the science of it, right? The psychology, the cognitive behavioral therapy and all that other stuff. That's the natural aspect of it, but there's also a spiritual aspect of it, right? There is a natural healing that needs to take place, but there is also a spiritual healing that needs to take place. And I'm sure you've heard the term before, but the term that we as Christians know is called deliverance, right? Where you are delivered um, from demonic spirits that actually are allowed access into you through these different things that happen to in your life. You said how you realized in hindsight how the guy that was in the military and this person that was considered at the time the most positive role model in your life,
Mm.
that you realized later that there were things behind the scenes, right? That there was loneliness, there was depression, there was a lack of intimacy, and all these different things that were contributing factors, at least, to why these things happened and why they took place, or at least they were influences, of these things taking place. And while Therapy generally only focuses on the natural aspect of it. Um, the deliverance also focuses on the spiritual aspect. We believe that these people that do these certain things, that they are under the influence of demonic spirits that are leading them to do these things, influencing them. They can't make you do anything, but they can influence you. They can suggest things to you. It's like it's thoughts that pop up into your mind, of that those things that happen to you, they started as thoughts, not as actions. Right? They started as thoughts. You cannot physically do anything without it first entering into your mind, in order to do it. You have to have a thought before doing something, right? Even if that thought is split second, our mind thinks so quickly sometimes we don't even realize it was a thought. We just did it. But it had to come through the mind. The mind controls your body. Like, science wise, your mind controls the function
Mhm.
of your body. But as uh in the Christian world, we believe that these things that pop in your mind are influences and suggestions from demonic spirits that are influencing you to do these different things. And if you enact on those things, if you actually do that, what it is doing is it's giving legal right for these spirits to actually come in and take inhabitants in your body somewhere, right? And it all depends on what the action is, what the whatever. Um, and that doesn't mean possession. Most of the time it's oppression, right? It's just influence. It's a certain amount of control in your mind or in your heart or whatever. Possession is where spirits just take over your body and just start controlling you. And it's like, when you see the movies like The Exorcist and The Exorcism of Emily Rose and all these other
Mhm.
things, it's like that is possession. There's a difference between oppression and possession. And to where they throw you down and they convulse your body and stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff is all based on true stories. Of spirits that possess people and take over their body. But see, they cannot possess your body or oppress your body without legal access, which can only be given by the person that is being affected by these spirits. And most of the time, this uh, oh, I done lost the word now. This just left my mind. Hello, can you help me out here? Uh, this legal access, permission. Thank you. This permission that has been given 9 times out of 10 is not a permission that is given um, with awareness, right? Just like you said, you weren't aware of what
Mhm.
was going on. You saw it as intimacy. You saw it as positive role model. I need this, right?
Right.
Because everything that's going on in my life, I need this. This is good, right? I get
Mhm.
to build Legos. I get to play games. I'm laughing and I'm smiling and we're having a good time and there's no yelling and there's no whatever else, and I don't know, maybe there was, I don't know, but like at least from what I'm hearing you, like this was the opposite of what you were experiencing. And of course, naturally, you gravitated towards that because that was what you needed and were craving inwardly so deeply that it was made easy for you to go into the arms of this person because the trauma on the other end really was pushing you into that. Right? And like I said, you can correct me at any time. This is just what I have in my mind, and what I'm kinda thinking about it is
Oh,
that
for sure.
because
Y
of the trauma was used to lead you into the arms of this person. I'm speaking to the mic, Skylar. The this trauma was used to push you into the arms of this person that would give you something that you were craving to where it would make it easy for you.
Mhm.
You wouldn't think twice about it, and of course, being 4 years old, 5 years old, whatever, who's thinking about that at
Right.
that age? Like, nobody. So it was this early attack in your youth. It's like I was saying, and I promise after this, I will shut up and let you talk because I told you I'll just take over, man. Things just
Yeah,
start
you're
coming
good.
to me,
You're passionate. I get it.
Um, one of the man, I heard a saying not too long ago, and it was so awesome. The easiest way to kill a king is when it's a baby,
Mhm.
you know? Not when the king is in office or in the palace or wherever and has all the imperial and royal guards around them and all the military that they have and the fortitude and the castles and everything else. It's not going to be easy to kill the king then. It's easier to kill a king when it's a baby, you know. And the Bible says that we are kings and priests unto our God, right? We are kings. So it is easy to go after a king, or let me just for a you know even ground. It's easier to destroy a person when they're a baby or when they're young because of their lack of maturity, because of their lack of knowledge. They have hardly any experience in the world, so they see it's a child only thinks good things, or should anyway. A child only thinks about life as long as there's no outward, negative stuff. Like in the purest sense, a child is always happy-go-lucky. I want to be this when I grow up, and I just want to play, and I want to do that. There is no negativity. There is no, unless there might be a little scuffle, fight here and there, but I mean,
Mhm.
they usually get over it like that because they're just like, hey, all right,
Events are a lot larger when you're a child as well. Every the smallest thing is many times bigger whenever your frame of reference is so tiny. You know, you
yeah,
only
that's a
have a
good
couple of
point.
years to comprehend things. Anything against the backdrop of just a couple of years of experience seems huge.
Yeah, that's a great point. And please continue,
Hmm.
because like I said, I'll just keep talking. I don't want to do that. Like
Oh
that, you're
yeah,
you're
no,
you're the
no,
guest
it's
of honor.
fine. Actually, I wanted to go back to something you said a couple of minutes ago. Um, I don't know if I necessarily agree that like all children need a positive male role model. I think that the important distinction is that children need positive role models. And the reason I find the distinction is important to me at the very least. Um, I don't know. I don't think it was brought up to like anyone who's actually viewing this, but I'm non-binary. I consider myself to be between the masculine and the feminine binary two genders. Whether or not you or the viewers agree with it, that's not the point. But the point is that like there's no there's no 100% correct way to raise children yet. We don't have the knowledge as a society yet. But the important thing is to just be a positive role model regardless of, the feminine or masculine nature of the people in the environment. Um, and we can come back to that or whatever you want to talk to afterwards. But further, I just wanted to go and say, especially to your viewers, and um, I'm sure that the primary audience for this particular podcast is, I'm not getting political at all, but I'm sure, they're all Christians. Maybe they're an older demographic, uh, or it's it's a struggle for people. I just want to really stress the importance of, before you even start thinking about seeking therapy, if that's something you're interested in, you need to first accept that mental health and taking care of it is important to you. Um, it's something that like I really see with someone like my grandmother. She has depression. She has a lot of mental health issues as well. Um, she refuses to get help with it because Jesus gets her through. And I'm not saying that that isn't the way to handle it. What I am going to say is, maybe the way that Jesus wants you to get through it is through the resources that he's made available to to you through things like therapy and medication, etc. Um, I just really encourage people to like, your viewers to really just think hard about um, acknowledging mental health in general and just consider it. And if you think that you need therapy, which I think everyone needs therapy, I think that is impossible to grow up without being traumatized in some way or another. Um, but I just think that's a really important subject. Um, and that I really just wanted to cover those 2 points. What were you wanting to talk about after that?
Well, first, I want to validate what you're saying,
Hmm.
uh, because that is a discussion that is a very heated one uh, among our uh, perspective groups. Uh,
Right.
you know, there are a group of Christians that and others that think that it's Jesus and nothing.
Hmm.
Like it's Jesus and nothing else. And it gets to the point to where, there is no room for therapy in their mind. There is no room for any type of medication. There is no room for going to the doctor, they just there are groups that they don't believe in going to the doctor. They don't believe in having surgery to for healings and stuff like that. And the thing of it is, to be honest, um, hospitals and medical treatment and stuff like that, that actually is the people that came up with that, they created those things from biblical foundations, and a lot of people don't know that. Hospitals came into existence from biblical foundations, and 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 that's not to like argue a point or anything like that. All that is saying is that, listen, you hit it right on the head. God has made so many different resources available to us and is continuously providing ways for those methods to be updated and to grow and to reach new heights. I mean, all the different medical advancements that we have now are amazing. I mean, you think about all the people hundreds of years ago that if they had the advancements that we have today, that they would not have died of the things that they died of. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are things that people died of that it's like nowadays, I mean, you just have a simple procedure and we're good. Just, "Here, take this medicine and you're good." Like,
Hmm.
some people there were certain infections that people died of, and now just, "Here, take these antibiotics and, take it for 7 days or take it for 10 days," or whatever, and it's gone. It's like, "What?" Like, and it's because of these medical advancements that I believe, that God provided for us to be able to be healed. It's like not everything, and I know you have probably heard of it and seen it, how, people will go to church or go to wherever, and they'll have someone lay hands on them and pray for them in order for
Hmm.
them to be healed, and there are a lot of people that do get healed that way, but there are other times when they don't get healed, you know? And then there comes the question of, well, maybe God isn't righteous, or maybe God isn't holy, or maybe God doesn't want me healed, which is a terrible, it's just, that's a terrible analogy and narrative. I understand where it comes from, but it's not the case. There are some times where, God allows you to be healed in other ways. Now think about it in this way. There Oh, well, man, that's a whole nother area that I could get into that just would, yeah, that's just
I
that's
mean,
too much of a rabbit trail.
maybe people being inspired is divine. Like who am I to say it is or it isn't?
When you being inspired, what do you mean?
Like maybe these ideas for like the antibiotics or like medicine or these techniques to heal people, maybe these are ideas given to humans by the Christian God. I personally don't think so, but like I'm not going to say it's not. It's just as valid as any other theory, and it's also like, I mean, that's fine. you know maybe maybe this is the way that uh the God is talking to the people. It's by giving the scientists the inspiration needed to create penicillin.
Right. Which I'm allergic to, by the way.
A good example then.
Yeah, great example. You know, yeah, I just think it's so funny, that something that is like that is really it's an as far as like for those that can take it, it's an awesome medication. Like
Mhm.
I mean, it kills just about anything that it comes in contact with, like that's not supposed to be there. Like penicillin, it's pretty much going to take care of it. And I'm allergic to
Yeah, absolutely. I'm allergic to grass. That's really frustrating. It
it.
seems really kind of weird. So,
It's like I really like to go outside sometime, but I really
I got to put on my shoes first, at least.
yeah, right. Thank God for shoes, but But anyway, you know, but I wanted to say that again. I wanted to validate, you know, what you said that me wanting to go to therapy is not me saying that I don't believe that God is all powerful and that He could heal or heal me instantly of whatever because I believe that He absolutely can. And there are people that have testimonies of where they were healed instantly and they just and like as an example, just like somebody having like being an alcoholic, or let me say I know I see I work in a well, I work in a school, and so I talked to this one lady who works at the is it the Aiken Drug Center? I think is what it's called. Yeah, works at the Aiken Drug Center, and told me that they no longer call people that struggle with alcohol. They do not call them alcoholics anymore. They call them individuals struggling with alcoholism. They don't call them alcoholics. And their theory behind it is not to release mental stigmas on people to make them believe, okay, this is who I am,
Yeah,
right?
that makes
Instead
sense
of
for sure.
this is something I struggle with.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like protecting their identity, and which as far as and what that is a mental health strategy, right? Like
Yeah, for sure.
because the mind is so absorbent. It sucks in information faster than anything, right? So like we have to protect the information that we are putting out because your mind the moment it goes out your mind's going to suck it in, like it don't matter what it is, your mind's going to suck it in. And so they don't want to say you are an alcoholic because then the mind will begin to go to work to take the word that you released and begin to make it a reality in your body, right? And so 'cause that's just what the mind does. And so they say, you're not alcoholic, you are an individual that is struggling with alcoholism, right? Or
Mhm.
dealing with it. Maybe not even use that strong of a word. Say you are experiencing alcoholism. You know what I'm saying? You're just experiencing it. Like imagine the healing that could come by just changing our wording,
Absolutely.
by just changing the way we talk about things, the way we express things, right? To where I can say, you know what, I'm not an alcoholic. I am experiencing alcoholism. It's an experience that I'm
Hmm.
dealing with, and I'm learning how to overcome that experience to where I receive the power and the strength to not continuously succumb to that experience.
Right.
Like that changes everything, right? And that can be applied to anything. If it could be applied to what we're talking about trauma. It could be,
Hmm.
it could, even you were talking about, your identity, right? You identify as non-binary, you know, and again, see, changing language doesn't mean that you're changing your convictions. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
changing
absolutely.
language and changing the way you talk about something, it doesn't mean that you're changing your belief on it
Hmm.
necessarily, or your convictions about it, or your viewpoint, your stance, whatever. But you don't have to talk about those things the same way all the time, especially if the way you talk about it is toxic or if it's unhealthy, right? Because like I said, people's minds are sucking things in at an alarming rate, and the way you talk about people or the way you talk about the way they think about life, the way they perceive life, because okay, I'm like all over the place right now. But it just I can't help it, man. Like when I start talking, man, it's just like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom. But
As a person who is a part of the trans community, I definitely understand like change like it takes so little effort of our day-to-day lives to respect and help validate those around us, you
Oh my
know?
god. Yeah.
And it's really important. And as a society, we can grow so much more if we just take the little bit of extra energy it requires to respect someone's pronouns, or make sure to acknowledge that it's someone who struggles with alcoholism, and they're not just an alcoholic. Their entire existence isn't just that one thing. It's language is important.
Yeah. 100%. Now, one thing I will say, and it's not something that I'm necessarily disagreeing with you on. It's just, it's like I just want to piggyback off of what you're
Sure.
saying. So, you're talking about um, how it takes little effort,
Hmm.
to um, respect a pronoun, or to have a conversation in a different way, or
Right.
to open up, to just listen to somebody, about what they're going through and how they identify or whatever. I will say this: it will take a lot of effort for those that are not healed, that are not healthy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That they either have not been through therapy.
Hmm.
Now, one thing I will say: yes, I have not been through therapy, but I have been through years of spiritual healing, years of it, right? And so I would like, I will say this: I could have this conversation that we're having right now years ago, before I really started giving my life to the Lord and really started experiencing His healing and all that stuff. I could have this conversation, but it would not be from the same vantage point. It would not be from this, it just wouldn't be the same, right? And of course, we're talking. Let's see. No, I'm. This is why I don't like math, because I'm thinking of the year that we're in now, to where I was. I'm like 18 and 23. I was like, wait a minute. There's no way that was 5 years ago. Like, because I was thinking 2018, 2023, but I'm thinking
Right.
18 years old. So I'm 33 right now, right?
Hmm.
So, and then from 18, so you're talking about, that's 15 years. Fif- Yeah, 15 years. Um, yeah, you're talking about 15 years of a difference. So much can happen in 15 years.
Yeah.
So much change. And so I would say that those that have not done any type of work inwardly,
Hmm.
I would not say that it would take a little effort to have a conversation like this. But and that's another thing we need to be aware of. If people have not done any type of internal work, then we can't expect them to be accepting of something that they have done no work for. To And when I say accepting, let me use a different term. That we cannot expect people to be so understanding and to be so compassionate and empathetic,
Hmm.
right? Without any type of inward work being done. And I think, and you would know more about this than me, so please correct me real good if I get this wrong. But I think that there is a portion of the community, of the trans or the LGBT community. There's a portion that are expecting that compassion, that empathy, that understanding from people that they physically and spiritually and mentally just cannot give it, because they don't have it to give.
I think that it's reasonable to expect it. I think that it. I think that validation is a human right, and I acknowledge that like a lot of people aren't capable of empathizing, just as a word. They're not capable of making it past doing the mental gymnastics required to participate. I think that it's completely reasonable to expect the average person to accept these changes, you know? Um, I mean, sure, it's like there's plenty of people who aren't going to, but we need to hold humanity to a higher standard. We're growing. We need to be more progressive, and we need to um, get with the times, I guess.
Okay. Um, okay. Let me say this. So what I'm hearing, this is
Hmm.
what I think I hear you saying is that you expect the same respect that people would give to any man or any woman or whatever, to give that same respect to you on the basis of how you see yourself, how you perceive your identity.
We
Uh,
are all human and deserve to be treated as humans.
and that I will agree with.
Hmm.
That we respect needs to be commonplace,
Yes.
right? Just regardless of how someone identifies, regardless of whether you agree with it or not.
Hmm.
It may even hit you the wrong way. It may even rub you the wrong way. And like I said, if you have not done that inward work, it's probably going to rub you the wrong way,
Hmm.
you know? And but my counterpoint is this: if someone has not done that work, right, which means they're not going to know how to take the offense that they are now being um, confronted with because of this situation, right? Because
Hmm.
of this conversation or whatever, because of that they're being confronted with, they haven't done the work. They don't know how to move past the offense
Hmm.
to give the respect that is due because not see, okay,
I'm not
this
expecting them to get it correct. I'm expecting them to make the attempt. Does that make sense?
yes,
I'm not expecting them to. I'm not expecting uh, everyone who has no clue to like suddenly comprehend respecting people's pronouns, even though it's like it's been a thing in the English language for however many years now, and people should get it. You know, um, I don't expect people to get it correct the first time, the second time, the 30th time. I expect them to acknowledge the fact that they were incorrect and just make the attempt at respect, you know?
I think I understand what you're saying. At least make the attempt. At least
Right.
show the work or whatever. Now, if they make the attempt and they fail, and you
Hmm.
said you don't expect it to be perfect, you don't, whatever.
Right.
Um, if they are like, you know what, I'm sorry, but this
Hmm.
is not something that I can accept. This is not something that I can agree with. It's not something that I can accept. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that everybody that disagrees is going to be this nice about it.
Hmm. Right.
you know, you would like for it to be. It's almost like you know what? If you don't agree with it, just you don't have to cuss me out.
Yeah.
You don't have to yell at me. You don't have to call me heinous, crazy names and
Hmm.
belittle me and demean me because you don't agree with my thought process or or how in my perceptions and stuff.
Right.
It's like if you don't agree, then fine. Just don't destroy me over it.
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
are welcome to your opinions.
yeah.
I would
Um,
say try to keep them to yourselves, you know? Like it heavily depends on the context of the situation. I would say almost the exact same argument flipped backwards is I prefer to say happy holidays. Sometimes I say Merry Christmas. Usually I say Happy Holidays because I respect that not everyone celebrates the same Christmas that I do. You know,
Okay. Hmm.
um, there are there's a large outspoken part of the Christian community that absolutely despises that. You know, just like there's a large outspoken group part of the trans community that really despises people disrespecting other people's pronouns. Just because someone like calls me out like in public of saying like happy holidays and they're like it's Christmas, it's not happy holidays, blah blah blah. It's like I'm not going to acknowledge that. I'm not going to like argue with them about it. I'm just going to walk away, you know.
Yeah. Now, um, see, this is something. Yeah. What the don't get me started on Christmas, man. Like, what a lot of, and I don't mean that as a back, like, against you. It's a lot of people don't know that Christmas actually, like, the origin of Christmas is actually, and I hope this term, doesn't offend you, but it is rooted in paganism. It's actually a
Yeah,
pagan,
I was actually
you
just
know,
discussing that with my sister last night.
it's actually not a Christian idea.
Right, it was based off of I think it was called Yule or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember the original name, but I mean,
Hmm.
like, it anyway, that's definitely not a rabbit trail that I wanna go down because I know, that some Christians will start, like, having a seizure or whatever, and I just really
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just like, "Come on, man." Like, I love Jesus, but, like, anyway, so, um, but I think and there's a part of me that feels like you are saying this, but there's another part, and then you say something, and it feels like you're not saying this, and I just really want clarity on this. Um, when you say that you feel but maybe I'm answering my own question in my head actually now that I think about it because you said that you expect respect, right?
Right.
Not agreement
Hmm.
is what you're saying. So you're saying, you know what? You disagree? Fine. I just want respect.
Yeah.
I just want common decency.
So I'll tell you something that happened Monday.
Okay.
Um, I'm a substitute teacher. I was in an ISS classroom. Um, Sometimes it happens rarely. Kids will ask me, "What's my name?" I reply with Mitchell. Sometimes they will go further with Miss or Mr. Mitchell, and I will say whichever you prefer. And then sometimes they ask more about it. I explain I'm non-binary. You can use whatever pronouns you prefer whenever referring to me. It doesn't particularly matter to me, and it usually ends there. Um, this girl, and don't get me wrong, like it ended there. I didn't confront her on it at all or anything, but this girl took it upon it herself throughout the entire day to refer to me aggressively and loudly as that thing, you know? And I won't say that like it hurt my feelings because it's a high school kid, you know? Kids suck sometimes. But it's like I expect to be treated as a human. I don't expect everyone to be like to say actually it's they them pronouns and they need to get it every single time. No, I'm very flexible with it, but I expect like if people who aren't flexible about it and they require the validation that goes along with a certain set of pronouns, um, to respect it to the same degree that we respect the default pronouns. I refer to you with he him pronouns. I think that um, it's obvious. I never strictly asked you, but you present yourself in a masculine way, and you never corrected me on it. If you did correct me, then I'll do my best to, refer to you by different pronouns if that's what you choose. Um, I expect that. Um, if someone uses the wrong pronouns and then goes, "Oh shoot, sorry, my bad," then that's fine too. You know. Um, but for someone to like just sit there and blatantly like, no, this is what I'm going to refer to you as because I feel this way about it, then I think that's kind of messed up. You know.
Yeah. So, let me present something, and this is just I'm presenting what I'm about to present. I am saying it because I want to offer a suggestion to those that may highly disagree with literally everything we're saying right now,
Okay.
and are just like hating every second, or maybe have already jumped off and they're just like, you know what, I'm not listening to this, whatever, it was cool the other times and now this is, what is going on right now, but and now when I say this, I don't mean to, this is in no way um, an attempt to offend you in any way, but I want to tell people how I address situations like this,
Mhm.
especially when I, um, you know, meet someone who has the same viewpoint as you do. Um, how go about, because a lot of people say, well, when we meet people like this, do we honor the pronouns? Do we not do it if we don't want to? And so what I do, like I said, I'm just telling you what I do. At least what I try to
Mhm.
do. I slip up every once in a while. You know, um, I try to address the person to where it respects them, and yet it doesn't go against my convictions or my beliefs. Example,
Okay.
um, I know you say non-binary, right? So that's neither, you know, the masculine side or the feminine side.
Right.
You're in the middle, or
Not
somewhere.
necessarily, but close enough.
Okay. Um, And so just as a context, I need to ask this question, tell me the answer, and then I'll that way I can have the
Sure.
context. What are the pronouns that you prefer?
That I prefer.
Yes.
I prefer in this order: they, them, she, her, he, him.
Okay. So in that context, if someone were to ask me a question about you, and in order to answer the question, it would require a pronoun, not necessarily a preferred one, but
Mhm.
just a pronoun in order to address that person. Uh, Instead of saying the pronoun, I would just say your name.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Like,
for sure.
instead of saying the particular pronoun, I would just say, "Oh, well, Mitchell this,"
Yeah.
or Mitchell that, instead of he this, trying to, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just because of my convictions, I want to I want to honor you in a way to
Hmm.
where, I want you to know that I respect you as a person, but I also, this is just my feeling on it. There All right, I'm just gonna go there. Okay, this is the secret place. This is
Yeah, go
vulnerable.
ahead. You can't offend me. I promise.
Yeah, well, and my intention is not to. Um,
Hmm.
you know, there are a lot of people that, because of their convictions, they don't want to honor
Hmm.
pronouns. They don't want to honor what you're saying or whatever because of their convictions, because of what the Bible says, and just fill in the blank. They don't want to honor those things. They want to do it in a way to where they feel like they are honoring God, right? And yet still honoring the person. But then you have some, I'm not going to say all, or, because that's obviously not the case. Uh, there are some that make it their priority to try and make people fall in line with, you must address me like this or like this.
Hmm.
Otherwise, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. I mean, it's you have to do this. You have to do that. And that's where I personally draw the line. I don't get that vibe from you. I know you have told me that like, when people they don't do it or I've said it and they still don't do it, I'm still, I
Mhm.
don't go crazy and blow. So I don't get that vibe from you, but there are those out there, that they make it their mission and really it is a form of manipulation, to try and make people, you must address me like this, you have to say this, you have to say my pronouns, and really that in my view ends up taking on a form of disrespect in and of itself, because now you, just like you don't want people to make you be somebody that you don't feel you are,
Mhm.
we can't in turn, in defense of our preferences, try to make someone be who they are not.
I can't force someone to do in respect to the pronoun such conversation, but
Yeah,
also it applies to a lot of other things. I can't force someone to refer to someone with the correct pronouns, just like I can't expect someone to respect other people as humans. You know, it's
yeah,
the it's one and the same to me. It's either you respect me enough to meet me halfway on this subject, or you don't respect me enough, and I'm not going to bother with you in my social circle. You know, um, but like it's not worth an argument to me. Like with anyone, it's I don't have the energy to argue with any random
no,
schmo about like I demand to be referred. I mean, if I'm feeling particularly feisty, then I'll disrespect their pronouns real quick right back, and they can get pretty salty about it. I mean, I saw this post on the internet. It's like whenever Christians disrespect your pronouns, start disrespecting God's pronouns and see how offended they get over it real quick.
yeah. Well, and one thing I'll say, that I understand the sentiment. I wouldn't advocate for it only because the Bible does say that we don't return evil for evil; we return
Well, yeah.
good for evil. And I'm not saying that you're saying that, hey, let's do
Mm-hmm.
that. It's just we don't overcome evil with evil. We overcome evil with good. Regardless of whatever
Mm-hmm.
stance it's coming from. We don't. It's like, that whole argument of fight fire with fire. It's like in this instance, you're just gonna create a bigger fire.
Oh, of course not. Like I don't advocate it for
Yeah,
either.
yeah,
But some days I'm feeling particularly spiteful. I might fire back. But it's pretty rare. I really just don't think that it's worth the time.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just like you said, it's not gonna accomplish anything.
Right.
It's not gonna help me, it's not gonna help you. And to be honest, like you said, I don't have the energy for it. I don't
Hmm.
wanna give the energy to it. It's like I don't wanna give all of my energy trying to prove that I'm right about something, and then I come home and I have no energy for my family.
Right.
It's like,
Absolutely.
what? Like, to try and prove that I'm right about something? Like, are you
Hmm.
kidding me? Like, no, like, life is way more than being right, or just, like, proving something, like, no, like, heck no, like, Jesus didn't do that, man, like, Jesus, he came down, he spoke what needed to be said, and those he said, "He that has an ear to hear, let him
Hmm.
hear what the Spirit says to the church." And then he kept moving. He basically said, listen, whoever's going to catch what I'm saying in the Spirit are the ones that belong to me and belong to my message. And those that are not going to catch it, they're just not going to catch it. And I'm not going to waste my energy. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to give what the Father gave me to give. And those that want it, want it. And those that don't, they don't. Like, I'm not fighting with anybody. I'm not,
Hmm.
unless there were instances where the Father did give Jesus to go and actually spend some more quality time with someone, because the father was like, "Listen, I need you to say this and say that because whatever, but spend some extra time with them." But but at the same token, you know, we have to, and let me just say this, and then I think this is really a good place to start kind of wrapping it up.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
because I think a lot of great, awesome topics have been talked about, and that we've really
Hmm.
touched on some important things. Um, this conversation, what I think the reason why this conversation is being brought into existence is to show people what it can look like to have a civil, respectful conversation. That the motivation and the end goal is not to win, is
Yeah, for
is
sure.
not is not to be victorious and proven
Hmm.
right or proven whatever, that it's literally just two people, regardless of identity or classification or belief system or whatever. It's just two people that are coming together to have a discussion, to have a conversation. It's like there are some people that they don't know how to have conversations like this because they've never seen it done. They've never seen it happen,
Hmm. Wait,
and that's another thing. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, you're fine.
There are a lot of people that act the way they do that you or us that we don't like, and a lot of reasons is because of what they saw in their home, how they were raised, how they were taught, and that's one reason why I shudder at people that immediately jump on them and say, "I can't believe you don't accept this. I can't believe you're not doing this. I can't believe you're getting upset about that." And they're focused on the what and have
Mm.
no whatsoever. They have no um, care about the why.
Right.
They see the what and they pounce on the what, but they don't stop and say, "Okay, I see what's happening. I heard what they said, but I wonder why they said that.
Hmm.
I wonder why they did that." There's always a deeper reason to why
There's
people say
context to
and do things.
everything that you're missing.
Everything, everything.
Hmm.
But nobody wants to take the time to get the context because they're so focused on what they disagree with. They're so focused on their convictions that they won't sit down for a minute and say, "Hey, can I hear your story?
I definitely agree with you 1,000%.
Can we hear your story?
Hmm.
Can without judgment, without wanting to just get more ammo in my gun so I could kill you with it?" And I mean, like, verbal gun, you know what I'm saying? Not like a
Yeah,
pistol
of
gun.
course.
Can I just get more ammo that I can shoot at you and kill you with? I'll hear your story long enough to where I can have more stuff to hate you for.
Hmm.
It's like, are you serious? Like, you can't sit down and just listen to somebody's story?
I mean, I don't agree with everything that you agree with. I mean, we don't agree with on everything together, but I enjoy our conversations regardless. You know.
And see, and I do too. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to bypass that. It's just something else come to my mind. But I enjoy the conversation. It's a great conversation. I enjoy talking with you. Like it's awesome. It's very cathartic. It's very very good. It's very good. You know. But what it does, see, conversations like this open the door for more conversation.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Is to show, and this is my prayer. This is my plea that this conversation would open the door for future conversations to be had so that way people can see what it's like to have civil, respectful conversations that don't end in disaster, that don't end in fits of anger and rage, that don't end in a fight, that don't end in a power struggle, and all these different things like that. Just it ends on, you know what? I don't agree, but I still love you and I still respect you. I see you as a person. I see you as someone, like, as at the base, at your base form, from my belief, you were created by God, and I am not suggested to. I am commanded to love you.
Hmm.
Like
And I
a,
appreciate
a, a lot. Well, thank you. You know, a,
that.
a, a lot of Christians, they forget the fact that love is not a suggestion. It is a commandment.
Hmm.
Like, you are commanded to love. Jesus said, He said, "I give you a new commandment." He said that you are to love your neighbor as yourself. And then he said something that was very interesting. He said, "People will know that you are my disciples by your love." not by your correction of evil. And that's where a lot of Christians think that they are being shown to be disciples of Jesus is by their correction of evil. And that's not what Jesus said. He said, people will know that you are my disciple, which means you're my student, you're my learner, right? You people will know that you belong to me and that you're learning from me by your love.
Hmm.
Because if you're not loving people, you're showing people that you don't know me. You say you know me. You don't know me.
I just wish that that was the template for the majority of the Christians. You know, I wish that they learned more to how to deal with situations like how you deal with them.
And like I said, it's been years in the making, you know.
Hmm.
And when I first started getting into the word and getting into prayer and finding out that God was holy, he's not just a loving God, he's also a holy God. There are, it's not just one aspect of him, but sometimes we can get so caught up on the holy aspect of it that we forget that he's love. And that everything that it may be things that he does that's righteous, and that sure, I mean, yeah, sure, there's judgment, but I mean, the word judgment at its base means decision,
Hmm.
you know, not necessarily wrath. It means a decision. It means that God makes decisions, and that His decisions are what we call righteous, right? Which means they're holy. They are right. They are, they're just. That's really the biggest thing. Like they are just. That's our understanding. That's our belief of it. Is that they are righteous decisions. They are just decisions. So see, but people want justice so badly that they will forsake the just part of it, and they'll get justice any kind of way. As long as they feel like they are being justly redeemed or justly oh shoot, there's a word that's on the tip of my tongue. I can't It's left me. Um that there are people that want to be redeemed is the only word that's coming to my mind, but that is not the word. There are people that want to be redeemed and they want to be reaffirmed or affirmed and reaffirmed so badly that they will accept justice in any form as long as it is in agreement with what they feel is justice.
Yeah, for
You know what
sure.
I'm saying? And so even if that crosses legal lines, if it crosses moral lines, if it crosses emotional lines, whatever. As long there's people that care so deeply about their own healing and their own redemption and renewal and all that other stuff that they'll accept justice in any form in any kind of way as long as they get it.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is look at the Crusades.
I mean, I uh, I can't look at that and legitimately say that was a good thing.
Hmm.
Now I will say we were talking about context. I don't have enough context to really make a judgment or a decision about whether this was this or it was that. Now, when you look at it and you're like, man, that was crazy.
Oh,
Like
for
what
sure.
in the world? Like there was some evil stuff
Hmm.
that happened, and all in the name of God, and for righteousness or for justice or for whatever. Now, again, I'm not going to the left or to the right because I don't have context to make a decision. I don't have context to make a judgment on that. And see, if we pull that back to people, because even though you shared some things with me, I don't know everything about your life. We haven't even been talking for 2 hours yet. I don't know everything about your life. I don't know every little thing that I said. You don't know every little thing that's happened. There
Hmm.
are things that you've forgotten, right?
Some
Go ahead.
sometimes there is enough context that it doesn't matter. Like, people do things in the name of God, very evil things. I mean, how much context do you need to have to uh, determine that genital mutilation in the name of God is incorrect? You know,
Mhm.
it's just it still happens in the US and the worldwide every single day, everywhere. You know, it's sure context is required in a lot of things, but I don't need a lot more context than what I have for that, you know?
Mhm.
Just as an example.
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying,
Mhm.
and I understand the sentiment in, like, basically what you're saying is like, is that just how is that just not common sense? Like,
Right.
that you just I get that what you're saying. You know, now what I will say is to go back to a concept that we were talking about earlier in the pod is that people can only do what they know.
Mhm.
They can't offer something that they don't either have or don't know that they have that they're not aware of, right? If so, with that being said, when I was saying earlier that God is love, correct? But he's also holy, and that people would focus on the holy aspect of it, but they would not catch the revelation or that context of the fact that he is love also, right? And so I think that those acts that these people were doing that we look at and go, that's not right. There's no way that's right. They were operating off of the context that they had about God was that he's holy, and from the context that we understand, from our understanding that we
Mhm.
have right now, that this is how we purge the filth. I say that in quotations. This is how we purge the filth. This is how we purge. Let me do it right here so you can see, because of
Yeah.
course you get up into the brick, it's like, what's he doing? But right here. This is how we purge the filth. This is
Mhm.
how we purge the sin,
Right.
right? Is by cutting the genitals off of people. Like, it's just like, ah, you know, but that was the context that they had, regardless of whether it's twisted and whatever or not. That's the context that they operated from. And so, if if we don't have the context that that's all the context that they have, then the only context that we see is the evil and not the context that their understanding was birthed from and what it came from.
Mhm.
But when we have the context that God is not just holy, but he's also love, and understand what his nature is towards people even like that we realize, okay, I still can't make now I can make a judgment on the act. See,
Mhm.
and that's this here's the difference. We can make a judgment on the act and say we can which means I can make a decision that that act is evil, but I can't judge or make a decision about the heart of a person, right? And this is a biblical principle. The Bible says, "Judge not, lest you be judged." Right? This is a quote from Jesus. He said, "Do not judge, lest you be judged." And then he says, "With the same measure of judgment that you use, will be the same measure of judgment that comes back upon you." Right? And so what he was saying, it's basically like you could say like the law of attraction. It's or what you give comes back kind of thing. If you give out good, you get back good. If you give out bad, you give back bad. And these are natural things that
Mhm.
people understand. You can call it karma. Whatever. But what he was saying is, and this is just what I believe, that you can. Okay, Jesus also said, or the Bible says, we judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, right? So if you see a peach, you can make a judgment that is a peach tree because I see a peach, right? If I see grapes, I can judge that is a grapevine because I see grapes, right? I can make a decision about what I see to say what a thing is or what it is
Mhm.
not. Now, Jesus takes it deeper and he says, "Judge not lest you be judged. In the same manner that you judge is the same manner of judgment that's going to come back on you." So what he's saying is you can judge the act of a thing of whether it's evil or not, but stay away. He cautions us from judging the heart of a person because you see the act and therefore you're like, that person's evil, right?
Mhm.
But then, as we're talking about context, God takes everything into an account, not just the act and not just where they are now, but he looks at that's why I ask people to start from birth and go to where they are now,
Yeah.
is because I want people to have context. So that way when we get to conversations like this, they have context to where it's less likely for them to judge you because of what you say, because of how
Mhm.
you perceive yourself, because of how you identify, because of your beliefs, or anything that you may not believe in. They may still not agree with it, but they have context as to how you got to where you are and why you are the way you are, or how you perceive yourself. Now they have context. That's why I have people start from the beginning so that they have a greater understanding, so that way there's a less likelihood of a deep judgment, not judging the act, but judging the heart, the quality of a person.
Hmm.
That's something that I'm submitting to you and to anyone else that's watching to stay away from.
Yeah.
Stay away from judging the hearts of people, especially even if you have context, stay away from it. But if you don't have context, don't do it, because, and then of course I'll let you speak, and then we definitely need to wrap this up because it's
Yeah.
almost 10. I see that.
I do got to go.
Yeah, I respect your time. Um, um, do I have time to say one more thing, or do we need
Yeah.
to wrap
Yeah.
it up?
Go ahead.
Okay. If we judge, especially prematurely, we risk destroying our opportunity to have a quality relationship with someone. If we judge based off what they're doing, we also can jeopardize an opportunity for that person to receive healing, because if we jump on the act, we further encapsulate their heart with rock and with metal and with steel and different things that keep healing from getting in. That's going to make therapy harder and harder. It's going to make spiritual healing harder and harder because of the defenses that are being built up. When you come at people, people are just going to throw on more defenses because they don't want to be attacked, because they don't like the pain that happens when they are attacked, right?
Hmm.
But if we come with love and we don't come with judgment, but we come with peace and understanding and empathy and compassion, it opens people up to the likelihood of being healed from their trauma. So that way, a lot of the acts that they're doing, they have an opportunity to stop acting that way, because now they can be healed from the trauma that is actually the root cause of the act.
Hmm.
And judgment keeps that from happening.
I agree with you on a wide scale argument. I think that there's something to be said for an individual being able to set boundaries, and it's not the individual's obligation to help everyone heal. It's your obligation to make it easier for society and the individuals in it to heal, but it's not your or my obligation, unless you want it to be your obligation, to go out and try and fix everyone and everything. You know, uh, it's important to set boundaries. And if one of your boundaries are, I see someone committing this act, which I see as evil, and I don't need any additional context around that, I don't necessarily judge that person to be completely evil, but I judge them to the point where I no longer want them in my life or even in the periphery. And I think that that's okay.
Yeah. And I'm in no way saying that we need to just start surrounding ourselves with toxic people. I'm not,
Right,
I'm not
absolutely.
saying that at all whatsoever, or that it. And I agree with you. It is not our job to heal everybody. But there are moments where you will have encounters with people, like me and you. If I
Hmm.
would have like heard your story, or heard you say, like, I identify as non-binary or whatever, and I would just come at you and like just blah blah blah, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And like there would be no opportunity for any type of meaningful relationship, because of the judgment. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That compassion and empathy opens the opportunity to have
Hmm.
more conversation, and it may even lead down the road to even deeper healing, that either person may not have thought that was possible. So, and that's always a good thing. So
Well, I got to get out here, and I enjoyed it like always. So, but I appreciate you taking the time on having me on, and I enjoyed chatting with you like every other time. So, let's do it again sometime.
yes, and again, thank you so much for giving me some of
Absolutely.
your time. I really appreciate you. Guys, thank you so much. This has been the Secret Place podcast, where vulnerable is safe. Y'all have a great night and the rest of your week. See you
Bye.
next time. Thank you. Bye.